Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello everyone, we are from Group 5. Today we're going to discuss about the equation of nature. But before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Firyaza Padomasyail.
My name is Raihan Aditya Hardian.
My name is Askia Usama Bidat.
In this discussion, we're going to talk about three topics. The first topic is calculus and light, will be presented by Askia. And second is calculus in the quantum world, will be presented by Raihan. And the third is calculus go supersonic, will be presented by me.
First, I will talking about calculus and light. In 1865, a Scottish physicist named James Clerk Maxwell promoted the mathematical theory of electromagnetism. He discovered that electric and magnetic fields satisfy the same partial differential equation. This one. It is simplest from using SI units. The equation is written as the second partial of y with respect to t squared equals 1 over mu naught epsilon naught times the second partial of y with respect to x squared. Here, mu naught and epsilon naught are two electromagnetic constant that were already known from laboratory studies at the time. From the purely mathematical point of view, these equations are exactly the same equation as the one used for stacked string, like in a musical instrument. The only difference is the constant used. Because of this, Maxwell now immediately that the equation would have wave-like solution. He calculated that this electromagnetic wave would travel at a speed of 1 over square root of mu naught epsilon naught. When he realized this speed was almost identical to the measured speed of light, he concluded that light itself must be an electromagnetic phenomenon. This image is sketched by Maxwell himself in 1873. It visualized an electromagnetic wave as shown in the image. The wave consists two components. The first, electric displacement represented by this line, and the last, magnetic force represented by this line.
Okay, next topic. We're talking about calculus in the quantum world. Some 16 years later, in the 1920s, the world of physics was again in upheaval. This time with the advent of quantum mechanics. This had been triggered in part by some experiment which could only be explained by regarding light not as a wave but as a succession of particles called photons. Now, it's with a tiny amount of energy. As we can see, energy equals h times v, where v is the frequency of the light and h is a Planck constant, 6.626 times 10 to the power negative 34 joule second. Next. Nah, in 1926, Erwin Schrödinger introduced the idea of a wave function, ESI, to describe the form of a quantum mechanical wave by writing down a differential equation for it. In the simplest case, for a single particle of mass m moving in the x direction in a potential v, Schrödinger equation is E h bar times the partial derivative of psi with respect to the t equals negative h bar square over 2 n times the second partial derivative of psi with respect to the x square plus v psi, where h bar equals h over 2p, and for the imaginary number I equals the square root of negative 1. Now, needless to say, then this is all very different from the classical wave equation, and yet one of the first successes of the full three-dimensional Schrödinger equation was to account for the energy levels of an electron in a hydrogen atom. Now, as we can see again, E sub n equals negative hcr sub o over n squared, where c is the speed of light, r sub o is Rydberg's constant, 1.097 times 10 to the power of 7 per meter, and most importantly, n equals 1, 2, 3, and so on is a whole number.
Next, we're going to discuss about calculus ke supersonic. During the 20th century, major events occurred in the classical physics, particularly in fluid dynamics. One of the most important developments was the growing interest in supersonic, especially during the 1950s. Scientists discovered that when an aircraft speed exceeds the speed of sound, the behavior of airflow changed dramatically. This relation led to the new mathematical models and deeper understanding of how airflow behaves in subsonic and supersonic regions. Next. To simply analyze the problem, we consider the aircraft stationary while airflow passes it with speed we denoted by u. The airflow disturbance is described by a velocity potential we denoted by Pxy. This potential satisfies the partial differential equation, and the formula is 1 minus m squared times the derivative of p with respect to the x plus the second partial derivative with respect to the y equals 0. The mass number is defined as m, and the formula is u over c, where c is the speed of sound. Next. Subsonic flows occur when the flow velocity is less than speed of sound, that is, when the mass number satisfies m less than 1. In this regime, sound waves and pressure disturbance can travel faster than the moving aircraft. Next. Supersonic flow occurs when the flow velocity is greater than the speed of sound, meaning the mass number is satisfied by m greater than 1. In this regime, the aircraft travels faster than the pressure and sound waves can propagate through the air. Next. In the supersonic, the boundaries of the disturbance regions are known as match line. This line from at an angle alpha with respect to the x-axis, determined by the mass number with the formula is sin A equals to 1 divided by m. As the mass number increases, the mass angle A or alpha becomes smaller. The mass line tilts further backward, and the disturbed region becomes narrower. So that's all from us. We're sorry if there are any mistakes. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.